Hello, my name's Alan Blair. This is my 24 day ticket complex, multiple lakes, and I cannot wait to get started. I suppose first up I should introduce this new series, the 24. It's going to feature a number of different anglers doing what they enjoy over a 24-hour period. You might see Ollie Harfer rapping, maybe Tom Foreman zig fishing, possibly Briggsy over in Europe. Me today, I've come to Picks Cottage. Picks Cottage, I've known about it for years, probably 10 years in fact. I've dreamt of coming here a lot and it really suits my style of fishing. It's a day ticket complex with a number of lakes on site, which allows me to flit around, explore, and try and get the best out of that fishery over the 24-hour period. I'm going to knock up a nice grubbing around mix consisting of some flake, pellets, some sweet corn, go around bait a few spots in the edge. As well as that, I'm going to have my scope baiting pouch around my waist with some floaters on. And really for the first hour, just go exploring. I've never been here before, as I said. The first thing I did when I arrived was go and see Jamie, the owner, have a rundown from him. Last night I spent a bit of time on social media, Instagram and Facebook, looking what the fishery's been doing over the last few weeks, just trying to build up a bit of a general picture about the place. But really, that true picture can only be deemed by myself once I've gone around with my glasses, done a bit of exploring and found the lie of the land. So without further ado, my official 24 starts now. The time is 10:42. Let's get going. The first thing I do upon arrival at said venue is I want to have a little look around. You know, of course the number of cars in the car park will give me some kind of indication to how many people are fishing there, but I don't know if they're all on one lake or they're all on. So I'd go for a wander round, but I wouldn't just do that just with my glasses. I'd prepare a bit of bait. You know, there's nothing worse than wandering around a big old complex of lakes, not having that bait with you. You've kind of wasted time. It might take me an hour or so to walk around that. In that hour, I could have already introduced bait into the water. I've got some fish gaining some confidence feeding over that bait. So you need to utilise your time. So getting some bait in there nice and early, you know, that means even though I haven't got a rod in my hand physically, even though I haven't got a rig in the water, in my head I'm already fishing because I've already got the fish, you know, hopefully feeding on my spots. So this is one of the lakes on the site. This is the Match Lake. This one's the Donut Lake. And to be honest, if I was a carp, that's where I'd be. I don't know if you guys can pick this up here on the camera, but there's a load of pin-pick grubbles there. So it's really important when you approach any new venue for the first time, have a couple of laps around and we'll head off around the rest of the complex and check out some of the other spots. It's of course the one I want to fish the most, but I did want to start off progressing through them. I've managed to get them taking floaters in here. Done a 40-pounder last week, so there's every possibility I might scrap the entire plan and just invest all my time on here. Who knows? A lot of bird life. Swans have been a problem. Gulls have been a massive problem, but I'm just going to keep trickling the bait in at the moment. The wind's playing into my advantage. It's blowing this way, so I'm not going to lose the food into another angler's peg. Just down here, I've got a lovely clear spot as well. It's just a bit of me. Weed, a nice big island, and some really nice big black carp. So see if we can get a bit of confidence going, and then I might run up to the motor, grab a float rod, and see if we can get an early bite off the S Lake. Look at that, mate. Wow, wow, wow. It was fantastic. Wandered around with a rake attached to a landing net pole, raked some areas, baited them, and managed to walk around 3 of the lakes, the Match Lake, the Donut Lake and the Specimen Lake. I kind of see this one coming. We got to the Specimen Lake and of course specimen, biggest fish, and yeah, found a few fish that looked really receptive to be angled for. So kind of scrapped the idea of walking around the other 2, headed back to the van, grabbed a floater rod, a mat and a net and come round and caught one pretty quickly, which is a really nice feeling, you know, having only been at the venue for maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours, to have one in the net, and a lovely common too. Yeah, it was great. After the disturbance of that lovely common, it's gone a bit dead here. Swans are turned up, the terns and the gulls are turned up. So I'm going to head on now, have a further walk around this lake, and then head to look at this Barrow Lake before making a bit more of a decision of what I'm going to do for the latter part of the afternoon and the evening. I like to approach day ticket fisheries in a very mobile way, primarily because they tend to be busy places, and by staying mobile you can really stay away from the other anglers. What you tend to find is day ticket venues, they're pressured, the fish know they're being fished for, and more often than not it's the quiet corners, those sort of secluded bays, bank space where there isn't other anglers, where you'll find the bulk of the fish. I would look for those areas, go in there, do my thing, do my fishing, extract maybe a fish, if I'm lucky 2 or 3 fish, and then it would be move on again. I'm not going to a day ticket to build up a big hit. That's not to say it isn't a fantastic way of fishing such a venue, but for me, I really like to stay mobile, look for opportunities, and yeah, flit around the place. Come around to the other side where the wind was blowing in. It's gone a little bit flat at the moment, but it was sort of pumping into this bank. And yeah, lo and behold, I'm sure the fish I was fishing for up the side of the island, they've drifted over here. Got a bit of bait in, took quite confidently straight away. They just don't like human presence, you know. As Jamie explained to me, the fishery's been here 30 years. These fish have been fished for, so any sort of casting or shadows cast across the water, they just don't like it. But I have managed to get one, and they're still taking out there. So if I can get this in with minimal disturbance, I'll try and get another one quickly. Switched over to the sawn off now. I don't need a float here, full stop. I can just catch them within 3 line in range. Pretty much the same tactic, still using the slicker floaters and drifting them into my bank now with the wind blowing straight into me. The main difference is I've swapped over onto a 3-pound sawn off. There's some real big fish in here and I need the backbone should I hook one of those. And yeah, quite quickly managed to catch another awesome Picks Cottage common. Lovely fish. Wow, just gone 3 o'clock. Time flies when you're having fun. Come back to the motor, another spray of suntan lotion, because definitely need it. Quick bite to eat, which is also really important. Plenty of fluids and stuff, and I'm gonna head back out now. Finally get down to this other lake called the Barrow Lake. Have a little look around there. Again, prime some spots in the edge with the flake and the pellet and the sweet corn and stuff. Maybe do a couple of hours on there this afternoon, and then definitely head back to this S Lake. I've seen one real large fish. There is a 40-pound common in here, and there's a few backups as well, sort of mid-30s, and it'd be really nice to have a go for one of those better ones. So that's the plan of the action for this afternoon, and then decide whether I'm going to fish over in that swim there for the night, or potentially down on the wind on that other bank there. But yeah, a lovely day. When picking a day ticket venue, I would always opt to not go to one that's just a single lake. I would always like to go to somewhere with maybe 2, 3, 4 places like Angler's Paradise, 15 odd different lakes on the complex. And that gives me the flexibility to move. If you go somewhere with just one lake, yeah, you just don't seem to get enough choice. You end up hemmed in between people or sort of tucked up in an area where there's not any fish. Whereas if you go to a multi-venue complex, then it just gives you the opportunity to move around and make fishing work for you. You know, I learned a long time ago that gone are the days, certainly in my angling anyway, where I'm actually fishing me against the carp. Nowadays when I go fishing, yes, of course I'm at a challenge against the carp, but I'm also at a challenge against all the other anglers. And if you can get a little bit of your own thing going somewhere, it becomes you against the carp again, and that's what I enjoy most about my fishing. Not gonna lie, that was probably one of the most challenging hours fishing I've had this year. Very lethargic fish, most of them just sitting up in the weed, completely uninterested. Couple that with the fact that this is the first lake I've fished where the birds have been a real pain, which is to be expected, but yeah, a particular pain on here. But eventually managed to get one. Little trick here, when they're super cautious like they are at the moment, if you take one of the soft hookable floaters and you just get it a little bit wet, just so it slowly sinks down through the water, those usually very spooky fish, they're much more receptive to sucking in something slow sinking. So yeah, with a piece of bread or a soft hookable floater like this, just soak it enough that it just breaks the surface film and flutters down. That's what's got me to bite. That's worth that one. Only a small one, but yeah, it feels good. Sometimes it's not about clubbing them one after the other, it's about thinking about the situation, working out the problems. Problem there, just not up for it. Yeah, it feels good getting one in those sort of situations. We're about 6 hours in now, just approaching 4:30. What do I do now? Do I go to another lake or do I head back to the S Lake? I think I'm going to have a look at the Donut Lake, which is one of the first lakes I looked at. Seems to be some quite good fish in one sort of area. Have a quick look there. If there's an opportunity, I'm going to grab it. If not, I'm going to probably start considering where I'm going to drop in for the night. It's definitely going to be where those better fish are. For one last cast. We were going to pull off this lake, Vans is just there, but yeah, walked up into this final corner. I think this was probably the only fish feeding up here. Real up close and personal stuff, literally just off the rod tip, and bearing in mind it's only a 6-foot rod, so literally just down here. Yeah, really exciting. The rest of that day saw us go and look at one of the other venues, the 4th venue, Barrow Lake. Tricky little venue, weedy, some lovely carp in there, and yeah, a few hours later managed to nick 2 more from there before heading back to the Donut Lake, which is one of the lakes I visited earlier that morning. Wow, they were tricky. Really coy, really on edge, and try as I might for an hour and a half, I couldn't get a bite. Had to make a call then. It's sort of getting on now into late afternoon, early evening, where I'm going to do the night. And I think, yeah, the decision was firmly made when I'd seen those fish earlier that morning on the Specimen Lake. When I get back to the motor, I get the power barrow. That's kind of changed things for me, really. It's made me, I've never been a lazy angler, but having the power barrow now, it just makes life so much easier. I really can load it up, you know. And with those outriggers, a bucket either side, bucket of risers, bucket of floaters, bucket of flake, all of my gear on the barrow, unhooking mat, landing net set up, rods sort of laid across it, it means that's me then. I'm going fishing, you know. Come out with the barrow fully loaded. Every intention in the world, I promise, of putting some rods out for the night. But I thought I'd just put another couple of pouches out. The wind's backed right off. So 1 pouch of riser pellets, just little pouchfuls, a couple of pouchfuls of the slipper floaters, and they almost immediately came up, but not smashing at them, like actually taking. It's the witching hour now, you know. This is the time of the day you want to be fishing like this. And yeah, 1 cast, fish on. Should have waited for the boys to get here, but when it's on, sometimes you've got to take those opportunities. Have a lovely common. I'd love to say that's going to be the last cast I make on the top tonight, but it ain't. No chance. Definitely starting to lose the light now. It's just gone 8 o'clock, which means I've been fishing 7-8 hours, something like that. It's quite mad really. Still got so much more of a 24-hour session ahead of me. I don't think the night's going to be as productive, primarily because of the style of angling I like, and that's running around looking for the fish and stuff. So it does mean I'm going to get a little bit of sleep. I'll be up at the crack of dawn, 4 o'clock, ready for another final assault right across the complex tomorrow morning. Going into the night, I'll have probably had a full day on the complex to make the best decision where I'm going to fish the night. I'd do the night somewhere, probably get very little sleep, but I'm only there for 24 hours, so the alarm would be set for half an hour before first light. Again, most people don't do it, you know, they like a lie-in, they'll get up, they'll have a coffee and a bacon sandwich. I've only got 24 hours, I'm getting up at first light and I'm cracking straight back on again. So I dropped onto the specimen lake for the night. I managed to nick another one on floater before getting the bottom bait rods out for the night. Fished on some prep spots that I'd prepped earlier in that day, and eventually got into the sleep system probably just after midnight. Absolutely shattered and exhausted because of the mega heat throughout the day. Had a take about 2 o'clock in the morning, turned out to be a really, really lovely mirror, and then set my alarm for 4 o'clock, which I woke straight up for. Actually decided to reposition the rods, which was quite strange. I kind of brought them in at a time when they should have been left out, but I felt if I was going to have a bite on them, I would have had one already. So redid the rods. The rest of the morning passed quite quietly, had a coffee before heading up to the Donut Lake to see if I could get them going crazy. Again, very, very difficult. Just gone 4 o'clock in the morning, feeling pretty bleary-eyed to be fair. Didn't put the float rod down until probably gone 11. Couldn't see a thing, but they were taking still, so give it a go. Had a bite to eat with the lads, went to bed about midnight, and then was up again just after 2 with a take on the rod out underneath a tree here where I was watching them ghost across the spot yesterday when we were float fishing. And yeah, it's a real nice one. Mega one. It's just gone 4 o'clock in the morning. What a way to start the day, getting that out of the retainer. As I say, bike hang just after 2 o'clock on the rod out by the island on a sort of harder gravelly area. My ever faithful cling on leader, drop off in line. Very short section, a 25-pound armour link, size 5 twister, and of course a Scopex Squid cultured hook bait. What a mega carp. Which means if it's just gone 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, got about 5.5 hours, 6 hours fishing left. Just hasn't happened. Slipped that fish back, redid the rods, super confident, minimal disturbance because I used a bushwhacker, and yeah, sat here for a further 2 hours, something like that. It's probably approaching 7 o'clock now, so more like 3 hours. And yeah, been picked up by a coot on one rod. To be fair, the birds have been pretty good. They haven't been too much bother, but I just don't feel like it's going to happen. The wind's completely done a 180 and swung round. I'm gonna get the rods reeled in. I prepared the barrow, dumped a load of stuff up in the van, and I'm ready for my last sort of 2 or 3 hours fishing off the barrow. What can I do? I suppose as I failed yesterday on the donut lake, head over there and see if I can get them going nuts on the donut. Be nice to nick one there on a floater, and then maybe drop back onto this one for the last hour. Once that sun's properly up, maybe I can find them when they're up in the sort of upper layers a little bit more. Yeah, let's get the rods reeled in. It depends on the time of the year, it depends on the venue, it depends on the fish size, but I'll always have multiple strings to my bow at the ready. You know, there might be 2 or 3 zigs already set up on the barrow, there might be 2 or 3 bottom bait rods, there might be a couple of floater rods. Really depends on the venue. But what I won't be doing is faffing around over the course of that 24 hours, going back to the van because I forgot X, Y, Z, and then realising I forgot something else and wasting my time like that. I just haven't got that time to waste. Rigs, yeah, to a degree, they will be prepared. Leaders will be prepared. In many instances, if I know I'm going to go through a lot of floaters, I'll do 2 or 3 bags of slicker floaters the evening before, glaze them up with the syrup, dust them off with a stick mix. Anything I can do to maximise my time over that 24-hour session, I will endeavour to do. It's anything but a dead cert. However, there are more than one taking at once. It's sort of 2 or 3 fish, very, very cautiously taking the odd floater. I mentioned this yesterday, a lot of my floater fishing and zig fishing, I'd use a zig screw and a whittled down Scopex squid pop up, great colour, and it stays on there for hours. However, fish like this, they've been fished for many, many years. They're not coming up and dropping over the top of the bait. They're certainly not Pac-Man. In fact, they're very, very reluctant to take anything off the surface, and they're literally coming up and just sucking them down gently. In that situation, I'll always use the soft-hookable floaters. They're basically critically balanced, and when the fish does try to suck one of these in, it literally flies into the back of its mouth. Dead simple to use, got size 8 floater claw. You can just side hook them, push them through, pull them all the way around, pop the eye of the hook in just so it helps grip there. For me, that is the ultimate floater hook bait, especially when I'm feeding the 11mm slicker floaters. They completely match it, but like I say, the most important thing is how they easily break the surface film when the fish sucks them in. Let's try and get them. Right, left hand rod. Yeah, I'm away. I was literally pulling my hair out then. It got to the point I was casting a soft hookable float over a branch, so there was no line laying on the water. So incredibly spooky. And it didn't happen on a floater, but I've nicked a second bite on the bottom bait rods. Hopefully this one won't fall off like the last one. And we can get off this lake and back to that specimen lake for the last couple of hours. Yeah. Really nice to nick another bite. I'm from a different lake on the complex, the Barrow Lake, but I think they're proving somewhat frustrating here. It's time to head back to that specimen lake for my final hour and a half. Lovely little mirror. For me, time is everything. You know, a lot of people might think I go fishing an awful lot. I really don't. I really, really don't. So when I do get the opportunity to go out for 24 hours, which can sometimes be weeks apart, I want to make every second count. We touched on preparation and planning, but the actual session itself, I just can't afford to be lazy. I need to utilise every minute, every second even. Specific things, the dropping bait into lots of different spots, getting lots of different areas working for me, so when an area is blown or I've spooking the fish out of that area, I'm dropping straight onto another area. I'm not starting from scratch. I might have baited that spot 2 or 3 times already. The fish are already confidently in there. So I'm just maximising every opportunity. This is why you go around with a bucket or a pouch like this and you try and prime spots if you can get away with it and the lakes aren't too busy. They're absolutely tearing it up down here. Plumes of mud coming up. You can see the odd tail pattern. Proper. When choosing spots to put that bait onto, of course I want to reap the rewards myself, so I'm not walking into blatant swims and putting it directly in front of it. More often than not, venue permitting, I'll be looking for little nooks and crannies, areas that other anglers will quite possibly ignore. I touched on it earlier, the back bays, the quieter lakes at the back of the complex, for example. Anywhere where my time invested can get used by myself. I think that's really important. It's quite a selfish manoeuvre, but at the end of the day, I'm going fishing to catch fish for me. So I'm very, very conscious of that. Oh, surprisingly, that didn't take too long. Absolute benefits of getting in there, getting around the place and just putting a little bit of bait in. You know, at no point have I gone mental. Over the course of this 24, I've probably used about 3 kilos of bait, which to some people might appear a lot, but if I land this, that's 8 fish. And yeah, it really does pay dividends to keep those spots topped up, drop onto them for quick bites like this. The sawn off couldn't have been out more than 15 minutes. What a mega carp. It's just approaching 10 o'clock. We started at 10:52 yesterday, which means I've got about 45 minutes left. This is number 8. Can I squeeze another 2? It's highly unlikely. I'm going to give it a real good go. What a mega Picks Cottage specimen lake fish. Right, that's down to 40 now. Fresh rig. I really want to get that one back out on that spot. Fresh cultured. Oh, heart's racing a little bit. Feel under pressure. Don't know why. I suppose it's greed, really. My 24-hour session at Picks Cottage was a long time coming. I've known about the venue for probably around 10 years now. I don't know what's taken me so long to get here. Work, family life, I can give you all the excuses, but I finally got here and it was everything I imagined it to be. I think the draw for me for Picks Cottage was the type of carp that reside in here. There's a real mixed bag, and speaking with Jamie, the owner, on arrival, over the years they've stocked it with many different strains of fish, plus there's the originals, and that makes for really interesting fishing. You kind of never know what you're going to get. That was my fondest memory as a child, float fishing. When the float went under, you wouldn't know whether it'd be a perch, a roach, a bream, and coming to a multi-venue complex like Picks Cottage, it's very similar in terms of the carp that are here. One minute you could get a VS fish or a Simo or one of the old commons, or there's a real mixed bag, and that excites me.
"22 minutes past 10.
There's a massive pack of them, man. Literally just got a couple of minutes left. Like 1.5.
Go 3, 2, 1.
Get ready. Good one as well.
Shame it don't count.
There's always someone who has to ruin it for everyone, isn't there? I'm all about karma, me, so I'm going to tell you the truth. It's gone 10:42. Dan, what's the time, mate?
10:45.
10:45, 3 minutes over. They were playing really hard to get. Dan's been pecking my head saying, who wants to watch a series called 24 hours and 15 minutes? But I just wanted one last cast, which led on to one last cast, and I got it. I'm happy now. Even if it drops off, I'm happy. That's really tricky there. Very, very reluctant to take bait, even the freebies. But kept persevering, kept mending my line, keeping in direct contact, and eventually I got a final bite. Fish number 9, 24 hours and 3 minutes. Well, that's my 24 hours complete at Picks Cottage. I've loved every minute of it. Yes, I could have picked one lake, I could have sat in one swim, maybe it would have come good and they would have come to me, but instead I've chose to utilise the barrow, have all my gear with me, go on missions, and the result of that is I've learnt a lot about the place in just a short period of time and caught some mega fish too. Big ups Picks Cottage. Thank you.
Yeah, one more take.